Hi, it's John from Crafts by John UK. Today's project is a background tag. So I'll show you how I've made this tag. It was just cut out of watercolour cardstock, and then I've used a die from All and Create, which is this wonderful jagged edged tag. I've then used Brushos to create colour, so there's lots of green on there. I've then added gold in the form of Distress Spritz Fossilised Amber and also metallic gilding polish. Ends up with a really interesting effect. You can see I've used some texture paste through the stencil to give it body, and you can see it's got a really interesting, lovely mixed media background effect. I should put something in the foreground. If you're interested in how I did this, stay tuned. I've sped this video up. It's not going to be a long one today, but you can see this is the All and Create set, and it has a coordinated tag set, one that's slightly smaller than the other. This is the cardstock I've used. It's quite a heavy cardstock, 300 GSM or £140, and you can see I'm cutting that tag out. I've sped this video up obviously just so that it's a little bit quicker. So that's me die cutting the tag, and there are, as I say, two nesting dies in that set. They've both got jagged edges, but they do kind of sit one on top of the other, which is really quite nice. So I typically use it and back it with a black because it looks really effective when it's done. So there we go, there's our center tag cut out. And you can see it's quite a nice, interesting shape. It's a jagged edge with lots of little holes and indents, etc. It just looks great on a mixed media project. So that's what we'll be using today. So we're going to start off with this plain piece of cardstock. It's a kind of an ivory colour, just off-white. But the main thing is it's a watercolour cardstock, so it can take a lot of water. So I'm using my glass mat there. So the first thing I'm going to use is my Brushos. So you can see I've got two different colours, olive green and lime green. These are wonderful pigment inks in powder format. I keep a little map pin in the top. That stops it from clogging up. And all you do is you sprinkle on just a little bit of the powder. You don't need much. Using your distress sprayer or any kind of sprayer, if you spray on, look at the effect you get immediately. It's an amazing way of creating a multicolour background, especially good for kind of shabby chic, sort of mixed media type projects really, because you do get a wide variety of colours and it's quite hard to control. I usually spray it and then just leave it to sit for a minute or two, and then I start blotting it with kitchen towel. You can also then pick up colour again if you find that you've got areas where the colour's not great. But the really important thing with this is to dry between the layers. So much like when using distress oxides, you need to dry, otherwise if you keep working with it wet, you kind of end up with a mush. So I'm just going to give that a dry with my heat tool. But this is a layering project, so you kind of add colour, then you dry it, then you add more colour, then you dry it. You just keep repeating that until you get the effect that you're looking for. Drying the back as well, and I do clean between the layers as well. So that was our first layer, which was the olive green, which you can see is quite a dark green, and then I'm going to go in with the lime green on top. Now you'll see the lime green has a way different effect. See how much brighter that is, and also it kind of spreads. It seems like the mix of the pigment inks is slightly different. So I tend to blot less the lime green because I want that to be the dominant colour. That's why I started with the olive green underneath and then the lime green on top. Again, bring your heat tool in, dry it, but you do get those wonderful bursts of colour underneath. If you look at that, you end up with some really nice effects that would take you quite a long while to achieve just with normal inks. For that reason, these are quite a good tool for those kind of cards. Just give that a good dry, and you can see, because this is a decent paper, it's curled a little, but if this was a thinner paper, it would have curled really badly and potentially warped. So good to use a heavy cardstock. There we go, give my mat a clean. And there we go, there's our kind of base layer of colour. Now at this point, because it's dry, I can kind of bend it and shape it and just make sure I get it flat. It needs to be flat for the next stage, so make sure you've got a completely dry piece, and also you kind of bend it and just warp it around a little bit so that it's laying flat, because you can't stencil on it if it's bending up. That's the only trouble. So here we go, there's our stencil. So Merry Christmas, lots of Christmas messages. This is the Distress texture paste, which is a really good one. It's the opaque product. So I use a metal spatula with that. So just get a little bit of the paste out and put it onto your mat, because what we're going to do, we're going to colour the paste. So rather than colouring white paste once it's on the project, I actually colour it before it goes on the project. And again, how do I colour it? With the Brushos. Because they're a pigment ink, you can use them to colour things like texture paste. So basically all you do is you put your paste onto a glass mat or a plate or a tile or something, and then you just add the Brushos in. So I've spritzed a little bit of water on there, and then I've just tipped a little bit of the lime green on, and you can see I use my tool there as almost like a mixing tool, really like a spatula, to just kind of mix it together. So that way we end up with a nice lime green, and this is going to tie in more easily to the background. So I'm just putting some top right, bottom left, usual kind of layout. There we go, and you just get a hint of it at the top, and then similarly a hint of it at the bottom. So top down, bottom up, that's the usual. There we go, and then that leaves space in the middle for whatever is our centerpiece. And on this tag I'm actually doing it with a little dog. But there you go, you can see you get a really nice 3D effect. So I've let that dry, and now you can see it looks really proud. You can see the lovely lime green against the lime green of the background, but obviously with the slightly darker olive colour. So I'm then going to grab this Distress Spritz. This is a product I'm not really that familiar with, I haven't used it that much, but this adds a shimmer. So this is the fossilized amber colour, which is a kind of a gold. I bought this at the Stamperama event in York, and basically you just use it. You can spritz it on to give overall shimmer, but you can also use it, if you press it slowly, it sends out spots, so you can kind of create a spotted effect. Now I just wanted an overall shimmer, so I just actually sprayed it overall, and you can see when I hold that up to the camera, there you go, look what a lovely shimmer it's got. It's got a kind of a goldy copper sheen to it now, which is just really nice on a mixed media background. Look at that, you can see all around the letters and everywhere, it's really nice. Okay, and that's our first stage. Our second stage then is gilding polish. So I'm going to use the gilding polish just to go around the edges and also highlight slightly more the letters. So gilding polish, it's like a kind of a waxy paste product. You get the sponge in the lid. I usually spritz a bit of water on top of it and then just use it, drag the brush kind of up, and it will pick up the letters and also add a bit into the background. You don't need loads of it, but also it's quite good for going around edges as well. So I then typically would go around the edge as well. And it's a little sponge, so you can just use it quite easily. And this is a good product. I've got this in lots of different colours, silver and gold. It's good for edging. I usually spray in the pot and also onto the sponge before I put it away, and that just keeps it juicy. There we go. And there's our finished tag. So we've now got a lovely background there to use on a future card project. Hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next project. I will post a follow-on video with the finished version of this tag. Thanks for watching.